Hi, welcome to my latest video. Happy New Year to all my viewers and those who follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I thought I'd do one of my New Year stroke of midnight videos. It is New Year's Eve at 3 o'clock. I'm filming this now and I'm going to schedule it for upload later. As you can see, I'm not in the pits. I'm at my parents' house in Devon. So I came down here earlier today and thought I'd bring with me all of my parts and things that I talk about and film my video down here. Okay, so when I did this last year, I started off by saying, right, quick video, quick New Year, Happy New Year sort of message. And an hour later I was still talking away and still filming. So I'm going to try and keep this one short. A lot to talk about. I've actually made a list rather than print it off. I've got my list here on my phone and I'm going to run through a few things, talk about some of the events that I've done this year, talk about the projects that I've done this year and what's coming up in 2024. Quick talk about the products that I've been making, the new products that I'm planning. How is my channel doing? Did I make a profit this year? And finally, I'll talk about what's next for my channel. What would you all like to see? Okay, so events. What events did I visit this year? I went to the Gaydon show. Okay, so that's the Land Rover show. I can't remember what it's called. It might be simply Land Rover. I think that's the Bewley show, simply Land Rover. The Gaydon show's also a Land Rover show. That's sort of first show of the year usually. Can't remember when it was, April, May. And that was great. Got to park fairly near to the Stig from Powerful UK. And then I was at the Bewley show, which is great. That's down in Hampshire where I live, and that is I think called simply Land Rover. And I was there with my 4x4 responders on the Hampshire and Berkshire 4x4 response stand. Did a few other volunteering tasks with them throughout the summer. The Basingstoke Festival of Transport was a really good show. Not a Land Rover show, but there were some Land Rovers there. And every possible other car, truck, bus, tank transporter and motorbike and other vehicle that you could imagine. A really, really good show. Recommend getting along to that if you're in the area. I also did a moonlit walk, or moonlight walk. That was a marshalling, a charity walk through the night. It ended at about 1 AM and I helped make sure everybody got round the course safely. I then trekked up to the Belvoir Castle LRO show. It used to be in Peterborough and it's now somewhere up near, I think it's near Grantham or somewhere, but it's a long way from me, 3 hours up and 4 hours back. That was an okay show. It was very, very dusty there because they put the racetrack sort of, or the off-road course sort of right next to the catering area, which didn't work very well because it was very, very hot weather and there was a lot of dust. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with that show. I know some of you had a great time there. It's probably not one that I'm going to trek all the way to next year. We'll see how it goes. And then on Friday this week, or last week, what day is it today? Sunday. On Friday, 2 days ago, I was down on Salisbury Plain with my fellow Freelander 2 owners from the Freelander 2 off-road group. There were about 8 or 9 of us, trekked all the way from near Swindon down across the byways down to Imber, which is the abandoned village that the army took over and evicted everybody out of sometime. I think it was after the Second World War. They sort of took it over as a training camp And once a year, I think one day a year, or certainly around Christmas each year, they open it up to the public, so you can go there and have a look around. It's very interesting to see it all. The church is still there, and there's lots of abandoned buildings. Some newer buildings that were actually built by the army for their training exercises, and other original buildings that are sort of boarded up. It's also used for training, so the army can practice their sort of whatever they do, hostage rescue or something like that. I'm not sure. How to storm a building, I'm guessing. Yeah, so that was a good trip. I finally got to use my winch. Well, almost. As I was leaving, I spotted some ladies in a Volvo estate who had managed to back themselves into a muddy ditch whilst trying to do a three-point turn on the narrow lane. So I pulled over, and they were trying to tow the Volvo out with a little rope with a Renault Espace or something, and I said, look, it's fine, I've got a winch, stand back, watch this. So I hooked my winch up, I got my magic key, I'll actually demonstrate it now. And let's find the key, wherever it is, in here somewhere. Here it is. Oh, come on. Well, actually, let's get the winch remote as well. So this is what I did. So I got the winch, remote control out, and it was a year and a half ago I fitted this winch. Been waiting for an opportunity to finally get to use it properly. So I put the key in, I did that. I got my remote, I connected up the cable, the rope, to the other car. Everyone was ready. Got everyone to stand back apart from the person that was driving the Volvo, and I said, right, in a minute you need to give it some and I'll winch you. And I pressed this and it just clicked, and that was it. Nothing happened. It's clicking in, clicking out. I don't know what is going on in there. It's not the free spool. The free spool was engaged. So I disengaged it, pulled out some rope, engaged it, and then it just clicked, it didn't wind. So I have no idea what's going on with that. That was very embarrassing, very disappointing. It sounds to me like an electrical. There's a high resistance joint somewhere on the cabling, maybe. I don't know. Next time I take the front off, it'll be coming off again soon. I'll have to probe around and see what's going on in there. I'm hoping the motor is not actually like burnt out or anything silly. There's probably some water's got in the wiring, I don't know. So in the end, I turned my car around and I just connected up a strop from the recovery point at the back and just towed them out that way. That was put in summer before last, so summer 22. What did I do in 23? Okay, so in no particular order, I did some wiring up on my roof rack. So I've wired up these strobes, I wired up work lights at the back, and these little light bar strobes on the side as well, which are currently kind of just bodged in down here. I will be wiring those into the main strobe feed, but there's a reason why I've just left those separate for now. So the strobes are here. So that's the strobes up there. We've got the yellow light for strobes. We've got the green light, which does the work lights at the back, useful for recovery and things like that in the dark. The blue light there, the blue switch, is the enabler for the light bar. I've put in this voltmeter here, quite a nice little LED voltmeter, and there's also a illuminated USB socket should anybody want to plug something in the ceiling. Wired in my dash cam into the feed for that, fuse 17 in the fuse box, because that stays on for about 20 minutes after you lock the car. Really useful. And then these ones here are currently connected just to the cigarette lighter socket and they're currently in flash mode. But these brackets here I've designed so that I can rotate those, put them on solid mode and shine down. Great for camping. So they make a sort of like a ambient kind of awning light if you need to illuminate next to the car. I also took apart my rear wiper motor, which was in here, and found the cause of the sort of sticking wiper. Okay, so what was happening is the wiper arm was kind of wiping to here and then just stopping. And the reason for that was that the motor, which is sort of in there, behind there under the panel, was really dry. The grease inside had dried up and it just wasn't working. It was actually getting very hot. So if your rear wiper is acting up, please address that before it catches fire. Okay, rear wiper motor has permanent 12-volt feed. Okay, so what was happening is mine was trying to wipe and was seized. It was doing that with the car locked. Okay, so you could lock your car, walk off, and an hour later the thing catches fire because the wiper has been trying to wipe all that time, flattening the battery probably as well. So watch that video. I'll put up a little thumbnail now to that video. Well worth watching. So other big projects, the Webasto heater. Okay, so the Webasto is fitted to my car. It is behind here. I've put it in there on a big chunk of metal, and it's in there. It's not working yet. Okay, so I need to connect up the fuel line, I need to connect up the wiring, I need to build a control module. Here's a picture of all the bits that I'm trying to sort of put into the control module. I've got a plastic waterproof box for that. I need to build that over the next couple of weeks, connecting the fuel line with a cut-off valve and a non-return valve. The exhaust needs dealing with, the air filter needs sort of attaching properly, the coolant needs plumbing in, and then that'll be ready to use just as the weather warms up probably. So I'm going to try and get that done in January so that I can actually use it this winter. Did a bit of lana guarding under the car. Okay, so lana guard is that sort of sheep oil rust proofing stuff. There's either a spray oil or a thick grease, and be painting that under the car. Hopefully that's working and doing its thing and keeping the rust at bay. At some point in a few weeks maybe I'll sort of have a look underneath and just see if it's gone rusty or not. But really hoping that lana guard has protected the underside of the car with the sort of kind of oily kind of coating. It sort of dries and leaves almost like a hard waxy coating on the underside of the car. Other things I've been doing recently, catch can. Okay, so here is the new catch can, replacing that cheapy blue thing that I used to use, and that is in there and is hopefully catching some oil, but it's in there on a new bracket. So it's got a clip here for this little balancing pipe, and there is the new bracket you can see there supporting that. I've plumbed that all in with 25mm hose, and I've actually taken that straight down to the PCV at the back there. At some point soon I'm going to be replacing this whole rocker cover. This one's really covered in grime, so I'm going to sort of take that off and put this nice new clean one on. It's exactly the same, it's just another one that's nice and clean. And looking at things like this hose, this hose here, this isn't going to stay like that. I need to actually make a replacement. I thought I'd be clever and replace this black pipe with a blue one, and it just didn't work. It kind of kinked as I came around past the fuel filter, so I need to kind of use a series of 45-degree bends and actually do that properly. So I'll do that soon, probably at the same time that I deal with that. And that elbow there can also be replaced somewhere in here. There we go. This is a 22mm hose, and that one will replace that grotty black pipe at the back. The PCV diaphragm in there, positive crankcase ventilation valve, the PCV valve, as they call it. There's a rubber diaphragm in there. I'm going to be taking that out. Okay, it's not so important on diesel engines. I'm not going to go into all the details now. There'll be a video on that soon. But in the cold climate Land Rovers, there is actually an official Land Rover kit that does away with that and actually sort of brings the hose out straight out the top of that kind of little chamber thing there. So more on that later. The big project recently was the glow plugs. Okay, so I did that a week and a half ago. No, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today, actually. 2 weeks ago today. Major job. Took me about 12 hours. So take all this off, fuel filter out. So somewhere here is the old fuel filter. I've managed to drain out the diesel that was in there, and I'm going to cut that open soon. Probably next weekend I'll actually get a saw and cut that open. We'll see what's inside and see what state it's in. That's done over 100,000 miles, that, so it's probably filtered out quite a lot of dirt. We shall see. It'll just be interesting to know what's inside. There's also a kind of thermostatic valve thing on the return, which yeah, I'll have a look at, and we'll try and find out more about that, because that has been the source of a few problems that people have been having. They fit a new filter and then the car cuts out a few miles down the road because the thermostatic valve has gone wrong in the filter. Okay, so I've got this new one here. It's a new genuine Land Rover fuel filter. Very important to fit a genuine one, or a good known brand like MAN or one of these other filter manufacturers. Don't get a cheapy one. Just, yeah, you'll end up with issues. Okay, so that was a major job. Fuel filter out, inlet manifold out, throttle body off. There's the old inlet manifold. Okay, so this one has, I'm trying to show you this actually. This one has got the swirl flaps in it. So there's a kind of like a pneumatic actuator thing here. And if I do that, I don't know if you can see that. A bit difficult to see actually. Just about see inside there. There's some flap things closing. Those are the dreaded swirl flaps that close off 4 of the 8 inlet ports to increase the gas speed through the remaining port on each cylinder and swirl the fuel and air mixture within the cylinder, actually above the piston, to mix it better. The idea is that it improves economy and it gives better torque lower down, and then about 1800 RPM the flaps open up and you're running on full 8 inlet 16 valve sort of full power. Land Rover did away with those swirl flaps when they went to the facelift model, mainly because they were troublesome. They would break off. They'd end up lodged somewhere inside the engine. Okay, so they're only plastic. They're quite fragile. So I'm going to try and remove them from that one, just so we can see how easy it is to remove them. Some people say, oh, it's dead easy, you get pliers, you pull the rod out and the flaps fall out. Others have said, no, you have to chisel away at them and saw things and generally hack it about to get them out. So I thought, rather than do all that, I'll just fit another later inlet manifold that doesn't have the flaps, and then we can worry about that one sort of on the bench later. Okay, so the glow plugs are hidden away underneath the inlet manifold. Now, I have heard that it's just about possible to do the glow plugs with the manifold in place, but I wanted to change the manifold anyway, so it came off and it made access a lot easier. So all of this was off. 4 glow plugs then. Luckily, thank goodness, they all undid and came out. I soaked them in WD-40. I did the technique of sort of tightening slightly on the torque wrench and untightening, not going above that shear torque, which is something very low, like 20 newton meters. They're only 8mm thread, and finally they actually came undone quite easily. Surprisingly, I thought, this is going to be really difficult. They're going to probably shear off. They didn't, amazingly. So old ones out, new ones put in. Used a little tiny bit of copper grease on the threads, with the intention of making it easier in the future should myself or someone else ever remove those plugs. have actually heard since then that it's not a great idea. I was thinking, well, copper grease has got copper in it, it's slightly conductive, it'll be fine, it's anti-seize, you know, what could possibly be wrong with that? But we got steel, or I don't know if they're stainless steel or steel, probably steel glow plugs in an aluminium head with copper present. The comments that I had would be that that could actually cause some sort of trimetallic kind of corrosion or something, and actually seize them in there even worse, you know, than if you use no grease at all. Apparently there is some special glow plug grease available. I don't know what it is. It's like a white paste or something. I'm not sure. I didn't get any of that, but I've since found that that's actually what you're meant to use. Okay, so that's it for projects done this year. What have I got coming up? Okay, so various things in no particular order. Right, engine steady. This thing here, and there's also one at the bottom of the engine that looks like that. They have this sort of kind of rubber, black rubber kind of thing inside, and the bit there, you can just sort of see my finger poking through there. That bit is really thin, and that usually breaks, but that's actually fine, because that's just where they've cast it in the factory. It's this bit and this bit, and that bit there doesn't touch, but will do if there's a big amount of travel. But you can see there, I'm moving that by hand. It's quite soft, that rubber, and it can cause the engine to, you know, lurch around a bit, and excessive engine movement isn't great. I mean, whilst it gets rid of all the vibration, makes it a very comfortable drive, you don't want the engine sort of rocking back and forth as you're trying to sort of brake and accelerate. So you can actually get these things. These are made by Powerflex. So there are two companies that make polyurethane sort of suspension bushes. There's Powerflex and Polybush are the other ones. Powerflex make these. I don't know if Polybush also do these. Powerflex have probably patented it or something. But these are polyurethane, same sort of stuff that I make my suspension lift spacers out of. This is quite a soft grade actually. But the idea of that is it's sort of like an insert thing, and it kind of goes in somehow. Maybe that's for... Oh, I don't even know if that's gonna... How could that possibly fit? I have no idea. I bought these, and I've probably bought the wrong ones. That kind of looks like the right shape, doesn't it? I don't know. I thought it would make an interesting project. So we've got these that may not fit. We've also got these, or this. Okay, so you get two of those, one each side. You get this one. Now this... Now which one does this go in? I mean, these look very similar. There you go, look. That sort of goes in there. I think you have to break through that sort of little skin of black rubber that's often present. But that goes in there. The idea is that these will stiffen up the engine mounts. There'll still be a slight bit of movement, so vibrations and that will be absorbed, because I actually tried getting one of these once and pouring quite rigid polyurethane in there, and the steering wheel shook terribly. It was awful, it was undrivable, so that was a disaster. So I was very interested to see that a well-known company was actually making their own sort of equivalent. I thought, right, I've got to buy those, I've got to try them. And then I spotted that they did these black edition, which are, can't actually really, oh yeah, you can just about see that. It's the same thing again, but it's black polyurethane. And those are supposed to be stiffer, less, the shore hardness rating is greater on those, so there's a firmer polyurethane. These are really soft. So I thought I'll get the blacks as well as the yellows, and we'll fit them and just see what it's like. Do they work? Are they any good? Do they even fit? I don't know. That'll be an interesting project. I've talked about the swirl flaps, I've talked about the fuel filter, the rocker cover I'm going to do. I'm going to get the Webasto finished. Talked about the engine steadies. And there are two other things that I want to do. My Haldex and my rear diff. That's one project. The entire unit will come off the car. The rear diff is getting very whiny on this car, so it's got to be changed. Okay, so I'll get a reconditioned diff from Bell Engineering, bigger bearings, put that on, and the Haldex will get stripped down and serviced, and then if I manage to put it all back together and it all works correctly, I'm then going to see if I can make a Haldex controller, so actually take control of the Haldex electrically, like with electronics, and actually effectively have like a manual diff lock switch. Now a lot of people say you don't need that on this car. The car works everything out. It's got this sort of pseudo diff lock by putting the brakes on the wheels and applying the power for to the front or the back as required. The car works everything out. You don't need to lock the diffs. But wouldn't it be great to be able to flick a switch and know that that Haldex is locked up and you've definitely got proper four-wheel drive? I just think that would be great. Is it possible? I believe it is, because a lot of the Audi and VW Boyd racers already do it. They already have a kind of a diff lock switch so they can lock their Haldex, and I'm guessing they do that to give better traction when they're drag racing other cars off the lights or drifting or whatever they want to do. Who knows what they get up to, but I've seen web pages talking about that, so I know that it is possible. Okay, so that would be a really interesting project. And then the other thing that I want to do is LED bulbs. So let's just pick up there's my gaskets for my rocker cover there. Mustn't lose those. LED bulbs. So I've got a big bag of goodies here. I went a bit mad. I bought like one of everything in the LED bulb department on Amazon and eBay, and in Halfords as well. Actually, I spent about £500. Yeah, I wonder where all the money goes that I get from YouTube. Okay, so I've bought all sorts of bulbs here. So we've got Novsight, that's quite a well-known brand. We've also got the proper expensive ones, the Osrams. Okay, there's two different Osrams. Okay, I've bought loads and loads of these bulbs here. Amber, red, fog lights, side lights, brake lights, headlight bulbs, more headlight bulbs there. Okay, I've also bought some resistors, because if you swap your indicator bulbs for LEDs, they flash too fast, so you have to put some ballast resistors on them. Side light bulbs, I'm already running these, actually they're really good. So I'm going to do one or possibly a series of videos looking at LED bulbs, not just how to fit them, but also comparing them in brightness and the headlight bulbs. What's the beam pattern like? Can you see where you're going? Brake lights. Are the brake lights sufficiently different in brightness from the side lights, so people can actually see when you're braking? Because that's one problem I've had before when I tried LED bulbs in the light clusters at the back. And I'll also talk about the legalities of LED bulbs, okay? Because there's some new MOT regulations that actually say if you've swapped your bulbs, I'm guessing they're talking about headlight bulbs, for LEDs, so your car didn't come from the factory with LED bulbs, then it's a fail. Now, I've actually been running main beam LEDs in there for years. Never had any issue at all, not even an advisory. But I run Philips Diamond Vision in my dip beam, so that the beam pattern is right, because LEDs often they fail on the beam pattern. They're just not giving that correct light on the road ahead. So I run the Philips Diamond Vision, which are, I think, 6,000 Kelvin kind of colour temperature. They're very bluey white, the same kind of colour temperature as my LED side lights and the main beam. And that also the light bar up the top, which is LED. So all of my front lights for seeing where I'm going are nice sort of bluey white, yeah, pure white, not warm white or the sort of pinky orangey white that you get from old style element bulbs. So that's about it for next year. There's a couple of other things that I may do. I might look at putting a bigger intercooler on the front. I don't think it will fit, but I've heard that the Ford Focus RS Turbo intercooler will fit a Freelander 2, and it's much bigger than the standard intercooler. It might be an interesting project to do. I don't think it will fit mine because I've got the winch tray, but we'll see. Snorkel project is always on the back burner. I'm doing that for years, really. I need to get that going again, try and get that done. Gauge pod, triple gauge pod project on the dashboard as well. Just, yeah, it always gets pushed down the list, but I really do want triple gauges. I don't know what gauges, oil pressure, boost maybe. I was going to do voltmeter, I don't need that now because I've got the little voltmeter up the top. So I might try to do, what I'd like is fuel pressure, but I know that I can't tap into the common rail or anything like that, so I'd have to pick up the signal from the fuel pressure sensor and try and display that on a gauge somehow. One other thing I've just remembered here, brake hoses, okay, so I bought these Goodrich brake hoses, okay, braided stainless brake hoses. I'm going to put those on. It's just started raining. Heavy showers today, so I need to push ahead. Oh, this is going to get wet soon. Right, brake hoses need doing. My ones are like 14 years old now. They're getting a bit old, perished. They need to be changed. Right, moving on down quickly. Products. Selling lots of the products that I make on a 3D printer. Make polyurethane things as well, and right, it's about to pour down with rain, so I'm gonna have to just move a couple of things into the dry. Right, okay, the rain seems to have kind of stopped now, so I've just cleared away a couple of things. These bits are vaguely sheltered under here. Now, this is my new Christmas present to myself. Okay, this is a power ratchet that I bought, and if I can figure out how to make it work. Oh, there we go. So it's like a, it's not a torque wrench and it's not a rattle gun. It's just like a ratchet. It'll go in either direction, and takes the usual kind of DeWalt battery. I've got a bigger battery than that one, actually, a big 5 ampere hour one. But this fits quite nicely, nice and slimline, and it's useful for doing car work underneath where you're trying to undo bolts with conventional ratchet. I thought this would be a nice thing to try and use. It's quite noisy though, a bit disappointed with how noisy it is, because I know that my impact gun is very noisy, so I thought I'll get this, be nice and quiet, but it's not at all. So we'll see how much I use this. It was 185 quid, and yeah, it was a bit of an impulse buy that. So I have to see how it goes with that one. I've also bought this, which is a nice little USB light. So this is a how do you pronounce that? Luceco. They make various solar lights. So this one has got like a little stand, so you can sort of prop it up. It's rechargeable, the USB, and it's very, very bright, and it's got 2 light levels. It will run 3 hours at the bright setting and 10 hours at the low setting. Oh, I can't see anything now. And also it's got magnets. Maybe. There we go. Oh, look at that. How brilliant is that? Okay, I needed this the other day when I was doing my my glow plug video. My head torch was getting lower and lower battery, and I had other little torches shining down, and it ended up doing a really dark video. Apologies to any of you who watched the glow plug part 5. It was particularly dark, especially at the beginning. I really needed this nice light there. That's brilliant. I might even get another one of those actually. I think it was about it was about £25, £30, something like that. But because it's USB rechargeable, I can just leave it in the car, keep it charged, and then should I need to suddenly work on the engine in the darkness, this, yeah, you can't really see how bright that is. This will be great when it's dark. Okay, really bright light. What else? Axle stands. This was a present from Mrs. Pitts. Now these are Halford's axle stands, and they've got a hydraulic. Yeah, let's do this one here. Right, so you lift that up, I think. How do they? Yeah, they actually come up on their own. Look at that. And then you can lock it. So when you put them under the car, no messing around trying to kind of hold it up while you put the pin in. You just press that, they go up, find the height, then stick the pin in. Job done. Really, really nice. They're from Halford's, 4-ton axle stands, but axle stands are always rated for 2 stands. Okay, so each one is 2 tons. I've yet to come across some axle stands where the rating they said was actually for 1. They would come in pairs, you see, so it's like 4 tons for 2. Okay, so the idea is that you always use 2 of them under the car. But yeah, very, very nice present that. And yeah, so products, I was talking about products before it rained. And where are we with products? Sorry, my phone is dinging here. I'm getting sent loads of alerts. Okay, so I made a sort of general purpose mount. So I haven't got that mount here, but it goes on the crossbar there. Not these crossbars, not these kind of aftermarket Land Rover ones, but the bar that goes between the roof rails. Okay, so it's just like a kind of a clamp pair, like a top and a bottom clamp that you can use for attaching a CB aerial or whatever you want to attach. They're for sale on my website. It's sort of, I sell them individually because you might only want 1, you might want 2, you might want 3. They're also useful for attaching a big strobe unit. So if you have one of those great big wide roof strobe light units, they tend to have a kind of like T-bolt things sticking down, so you can use them with my mounts that I've made. Scuttle inserts as well. This is a recent product. So this, it's a little kind of dished, almost like a washer thing with a sort of oblong shape underneath, and the idea is that it sort of keeps the scuttle solid, stops it sort of slipping down and opening up a gap at the bottom of the windscreen. There's that. Lift spacers. I've made another batch of lift spacers. I've got a few left, not many. I'll probably be making one more batch, maybe in January or February. Yeah, I don't know. That may well be the last ones. They're not selling as well as I used to sell them. Last year I made a batch, they sold out in half an hour. This year I made a batch, I made 9 sets of spacers, and I sold 4, so I've still got 5 sets, but I'd like to fit 1 set to my own car. I've got my old designer spacers on, but I want to pull those off and put the later design on. Okay, just to kind of do a video really, just to show you how to fit them. But Powerful UK did a video series on the latest design, 3 videos showing, I think it was lifting, I think they did the front first or the back, I can't remember, front first I think, then the back, and then the 3rd video was them going off-road and testing them out or something like that. I've made light brackets for the grille, so I've been doing Freelander 2 brackets for a long time, for pre-facelift and facelift. They actually go next to the badge as well on the facelift, and then I enlarged the design a bit so that they would fit on a Discovery 4. Okay, so Discovery 4 has a pre-facelift and a facelift. Okay, so there's spotlight brackets for Discovery 4 available, and I've also designed some completely different strobe brackets. So the Discovery 4 is strobes and spotlights. Okay, and then for the Discovery 2 I've made some strobe mounts. Okay, so they sort of clip in. There's a completely different shaped grille. They sort of clip in. Okay, so they're also available. I've just bought myself another 3D printer. So I used to have 2 Ender 3s, the Creality Ender 3s. got rid of those, bought an Ender 3 S1 Pro, and was so impressed with it. It's really, really good. The failure rate is, I hardly have any prints now that fail, that come out. They just break off from the bed or warp or anything like that. I've got the printer in an enclosure. I'm printing in ABS, solid 100% infill ABS, and the prints are just coming out perfectly every time. Really, really good. So impressed. I bought another printer. Okay, so I haven't put that together yet. I'll be putting that together very soon, and then I'll be able to try to keep up with orders, because what's happening at the moment is I make a batch of, for example, spotlight brackets, and then they sell out, and then there's a gap. They're out of stock for a while before I make more, because there's other things I need to print. I need to print other parts and catch can brackets and all that kind of thing. So I'm getting another printer that's been delivered, still in its box. Need to put that together, and then I'll start trying to look at some new products. So this catch can bracket here, there's a new band around the catch can that will work on either the sort of cheaper Masso one or the genuine Man Hummel ProVent 200. Okay, so you've got a much stronger bracket, and then this bracket here, the L-shaped bracket that attaches up here, I'll be putting those on sale soon, so you can buy whichever bits you want. And I've also ordered a load of these cans, so if you want a can as well, I can sell you that. I'm also going to do some intercooler hose clips. Okay, so there is a problem. The standard intercooler hose is always split, they fail. It's a very, very common failure on the Freelander 2. So people fit nice blue silicone ones, or other colours are available, this sort of thing. Not that's the intake duct, but they fit hoses like that down in here, you know, on the intercooler. And then up to a turbo through the intercooler, and then up, and then there's a very short hose, which you might better, no, you can't see, it's down in there somewhere. And silicone hoses are brilliant, they don't split so easily, but there is a problem, and that is that either side of the intercooler, the hose tends to rub against the bodywork, the chassis, and it can split or wear through. So I'm designing some kind of clips that hold the hose slightly away from the bodywork, okay, and stop that sort of wearing of them. Also, where the hose goes past the air conditioning compressor, the bolt heads can also make holes in the hose. I've had that happen to me, so I've just put a Michelor clamp around to act as protection, but I'm going to make something better, some kind of clampy thing, because the factory clamp that goes on the old black rubber hose, it's too small usually when you put the uprated hoses on. They're slightly bigger diameter. Okay, so that's a few things that I'll be developing, testing on my own car, and then putting available for sale on my website shop, beaverspits.com. Okay, so go to the main page and then click the shop button, and you can get to the store and you can buy things. You can pay by credit card or PayPal. So it's proper online website shop thing, and I ship to most countries around the world. Okay, it'll work out the postage. I get a lot of emails from people going, oh well, how much is it to send this to Botswana or somewhere? And it's like, well, if you go on the website, it works it out for you. You know, you put in your destination and it will work out the shipping. Okay, it's done on the weight, and obviously, you know, is it Europe, is it UK, or is it sort of international? Yeah, it'll calculate it all and present you with a total at the end. Talking of money, last year I did a very quick little bit on finances of my channel. Okay, so I plough every penny that I get from selling the parts and from YouTube. Every penny goes back into the channel, okay, to buy all the bits and the tools and everything. It's very expensive doing all this, buying the equipment, the parts, the materials, the website hosting, the electricity to run the printers, all of that, all costs a lot of money. Okay, I don't take a single penny out of it for myself. I put everything back in to buy more things to make more videos. Okay, so it's a sort of like a non-profit kind of thing. I put up a graph last year just showing, how much money I made from YouTube, how much money I made from the parts, expenses, profit loss, that sort of thing. I've got nothing to hide. I don't make any money out of this. I'm doing it at a loss. And unfortunately, in the last year, I made another loss. It wasn't as big as the loss before. So I made a £4,000 loss a couple of years ago, £3,000 loss, and then this year a £2.4 thousand loss. So yeah, it's going in the right direction. Still not really making a profit, mainly because I keep spending all the money I make on buying things like tools and lights and parts for videos, and yeah, it's very easy to spend the money, but I do need to start actually trying to kind of get my YouTube revenue up a bit. I don't want to put the prices up on my website, okay, because I just don't want to charge any more for the parts that I make. They aren't cheap. I know. That's how much I have to sell them for to attempt to make some sort of profit out of it. What I need is the YouTube revenue to come up. So I need you guys to view the videos more, subscribe, like, get those videos appearing in the suggested videos in YouTube. Then more people will watch them. I'm making about, on average, probably about £80 a month. December was a good month. December's always a good month because the advertisers pay more just before Christmas. So I actually got £115 last month. Brilliant, the most I've ever got. But in January, it drops off a cliff. And if it's under £60, I don't even get a payout. Okay, so here's a quick graph showing month on month how much revenue I took for the YouTube videos. Okay, so this is you guys watching these videos, sitting through those adverts at the beginning. I don't want to enable mid-roll adverts, all right? So there'll be an advert at the beginning, and sometimes you can skip it, sometimes you can't. But it's that advert that gets me the payout from YouTube. Okay, now you can also do YouTube Premium, and it's all done a different way. Then you won't get any adverts, and you can download as well, which is great. I do YouTube Premium, highly recommend it. It's about £15 a month, something like that, but really, really good. Okay, no adverts, fantastic. Yeah, so this graph, so that was a graph of the YouTube revenue. When I add in the parts, okay, so the parts plus the YouTube, then things are looking pretty good actually. YouTube revenue, 851. When I add in the parts as well, 11,600. Not too bad. However, the expenses for the last year was a staggering £14,135. Okay, so that's how much it cost me to do all of this. Okay, and that's not like paying for car tax or petrol or diesel or anything like that, insurance, all of that I pay for out of my own money. That's how much it cost me to make the parts I sell, run the website, buy the tools and the parts for the videos, the postage as well. I know I charge postage, but I've still got to go to the post office and pay for the postage. Okay, there's a lot of expense, and when you take those expenses off the revenue, it's a pretty sorry picture really. It's not great. It's not great. Here's a graph now of the P&L, the profit and loss. 2 months I actually made a profit, 10 months I made a loss, and that all comes in £2,493 loss. Okay, so it's better than last year, but it's still a loss. I've been doing this a few years now, and I haven't made a profit. I've spent probably about 10 grand of my own money. Put basically that loss, I have to then supplement the channel. I do my tax return, pay any taxes due. Luckily, because I have a day job, it all balances out, and the tax man actually gives me a little bit back, which is nice, but it's not much. So yeah, I've got to start making a profit. Got to get the views up. Don't want to turn on mid-roll ads. May try that 1 month just to see. I have no idea how much more revenue I'd get from YouTube if I turn on mid-roll ads, but I would do that as a last resort, okay, because I know how annoying it is when you're in the middle of watching a video and then an advert comes up. It's infuriating. So yeah, I mean, what would you guys like to see? What would you like to see? Would you like to see monthly vlogs? Powerful UK do vlogs every now and then. They put up a video just talking about the things they're doing. Would you like to see one of those videos every month, every 3 months, just to talk about projects? You know, this is what I've been doing lately. Here's some things I've bought. I can do that if you want. I can do more product reviews. So maybe I could do a review video of this, or the light, or the axle stands. I can actually do a video saying, I bought this, or I got given this as a Christmas present, and this is it in action, and is it good, is it bad? Yeah, might be useful to some of you if you're thinking of buying those things. So that's it, really. That is it. 2023 done. A busy year. It's gone by very, very quickly. I've done loads of different things with the car, and I've still got an endless list of projects to do next year. So 2024, yeah, lots to do. Lots of exciting videos coming up. The Webasto, top of the list, got to get that done. The differential at the back, whining away, definitely second on the list. Those will be big projects. And then there's other bits and bobs. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year. Hopefully this video hasn't gone on too long. And I'm going to go inside and warm up. Have a good 2024, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.